Hi, everyone, and welcome to the third in our Zoom into Gardening series on planting your garden. My name is Sarah Webb. I'm the Community Engagement Librarian with the Clark County Public Library. I want to welcome you all this evening to our program. Before we get started, I want to introduce some special guests with us this evening via Zoom. The first one is Cheryl DeGroat Dover. She is a graduate of South High School, JBS, in Wilberforce University. She is the Minority Business Development Coordinator for the City of Springfield and is involved in the Melrose Acres Project and the Sustainable Options for Springfield Mission Group. A lifelong gardener, she lives in the Melrose Acres neighborhood where she also grew up, not too far from the Melrose Acres Urban Agricultural Site. Next is Shabria Jeffrey. Bree was in the first graduating class of the new Springfield High School and is a graduate of Wittenberg University with an interdisciplinary degree. She currently works at Speedway corporate headquarters and loves traveling and exploring. Recent pursuits have included attending a hobo convention, working at an environmental group camp in Montana, and teaching in New York City schools for a year. She also enjoys gardening and hiking in nature. Last but not least is Debbie Mines. Debbie is a graduate of South High School and of Lane College in Tennessee and worked at the Clark County Juvenile Detention Facility for 32 years. Now retired, she is an avid gardener involving her grandchildren and is a board member of Springfield Ohio Urban Plantfolk. She spends many hours in the greenhouse caring for the seedlings for Melrose Acres Project, involved with gardening projects for the Springfield City Schools and with soup. So please welcome our special guests, Cheryl and Bree and Debbie this evening. Welcome.
Hi.
And of course, hi. And of course, our lovely fearless host, Miss Nancy Flinbaugh. So Miss Nancy, take it away.
Okay, thank you, Sarah. Thank you for hosting the series for us. This is our third Zoom into gardening tonight. And tonight we'll be looking at planting your garden with expert advice from Cheryl DeGroat Dover. And we've got a full plate tonight. We're going to start with a brief interview with Cheryl so you can get to know her a little bit. And then she'll give you some tips on planting your garden. And then Bree Jeffrey is going to introduce the Porch Garden Project. After that, we'll have a few announcements. And then we're going to turn this over to all of you to share your own wisdom and do questions and answers. After that, Sarah will be giving us a rundown on the library books that are available on this theme. And then we have 3 videos that we weren't able to fit in last month. We'll have an interview with Debbie Mines, who works with SOUP, the Springfield Ohio Urban Plantfolk. We're going to have an Earth Day Rewind video and then Inspiration Isle. And I see we have Jan Kushmal is on the call tonight, and she's one of our poets. And we'll be featuring her poetry later. So at this time, I'd ask you, Shlother, if you can bring up the interview with Cheryl Dover. Thank you. Welcome to Zoom into Gardening. Today, we are pleased to have Cheryl DeGroat Dover with us to talk about planting your garden. And first, we want to get to know Cheryl a little bit. So first of all, Cheryl, I'd like you to tell us a little bit about yourself, where you grew up and went to school and your career.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Yeah, I grew up here in Springfield, Ohio, Perrin Woods, Hayward, South, Clark State, Wilberforce, all that stuff. And then I moved away to Cincinnati for some years. And then I returned and I work with the city of Springfield now as a Minority Business Development Coordinator.
Yeah, great. And I was fortunate to work with Cheryl for many years there at the city. So I consider Cheryl a good friend. And she's a lot of fun to work with. So,
right. You're fun too.
So we want to talk about gardening today. So tell me, when and why did you start gardening?
Well, I started gardening when my children were young and we lived on the east side of Springfield, and We had just moved back from Cincinnati. And I just felt like I needed to do something. And there the yard was. And my grandmother was a very avid gardener. She died in 1970 when I was really young then, but I remember just walking through her gardens and looking at all the flowers and touching, the hydrangeas, and I would smell stuff. But I thought about that and I said, I'm just going to start the garden. I'm going to start buying some plants. So I did.
Okay, great. And was your mother a gardener also, or?
Mom really wasn't a gardener because she was the first generation of the family to work outside the home. As a female, she was the first in that first generation. So she didn't have time to garden and things like that. I mean, she worked in an office, but towards the second half of her life, she picked it up from me actually. After I started to garden and I started to buy flowers and vegetables, and she started to do the same thing. So yeah, she was a late bloomer, so to speak. But yeah, she was a gardener too.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about the flowers and the vegetables you're growing in your yard now. What do you like to do with your yard?
Well, every year I get flowers. I usually buy geraniums and petunias and the regular stuff that people buy when they go to the garden centers. Things that smell good. But I also always have a vegetable garden. And this year I've got raspberries that I put in last year. And I also have tomatoes and peppers, eggplant. I have herbs that I've been growing for years. I always have mint, of course. Once you get mint, you can't get rid of it. But I've got sage. I've got a couple types of sage. I've got thyme. So I've got a lot of different little things in my garden this year because I put in butterfly bushes last year and I put in poppies last year, and everything is starting to wake up. So it's exciting.
Okay, where have you learned how to garden? How did you learn how to do all this?
Well, like I said, my grandmother had, when I was a small child, had just walked with her and I had just kind of seen what she did. I've got, as a matter of fact, I've got irises that she planted in her yard. She died in 1970, so these are really old irises, and they're purple and they're gorgeous. But after I grew up and I started to garden, I just started reading. I just started reading books, magazines, anything that said anything about gardening. And now we've got Google, where you can Google anything you want to know about any plant. You can YouTube, anything you want to know about any plant. You can actually see people putting the plants in and harvesting them. And so I've learned a lot from just media. Now I've talked to some people, and that's helped out a lot too. But mostly I just read a lot of garden, and I still read a lot. I buy books and things like that. Sometimes I buy books by people that just talk about the beauty of their gardens, and I love that too. So.
Well, I always have thought that you have a green thumb, but it sounds like you've done a lot to learn how to have a green thumb, and sometimes people say, well, I don't have a green thumb, and maybe it's because they haven't taken time to learn, how to take care of plants. But when I come to your house, it seems like your plants are always very happy.
Yeah, just this morning I was out and I was putting in some annuals in my front beds, and the dirt was hard, so that meant I had to go into my backyard and get some of the looser dirt that I just bought this year, the peat and that type of things. And I had to dig that into the yard where I was going to put the plants, because it would have been too hard for the plants to thrive. So, there's a lot that goes into it. You just can't go and just put a plant in a hole. You have to make sure that the dirt has energy, and that it's pliable, and that it's easy to get your hand into, because if it's not easy for you to get your hand into, it's going to be hard for a plant to get its root into the soil also.
That's a good point. We're going to go ahead and let you go into that a little bit more with the presentation. But I just wondered, is there any advice that you would give to others who maybe want to start getting involved in gardening?
Oh, I would just say that it's wonderful therapy, because that really helps me out now, and it helped me out then when I was raising the 3 kids. They're wonderful children, but sometimes they get on your nerves. And when you go outside with a tray of plants and you start to put them in, they fall in line. They say, Mommy, what's this? What's that? I say, go get the shovel, go get this. And it just becomes a family project, and it's a wonderful thing. Now, my kids, they garden lightly, but they can always tell what a plant is. They know their coneflowers, they know roses, they know all that stuff. So even though they're not actually doing it a lot right now, they know what they are. They know what it takes, and they know what gardening brings to one's life.
Well, that's great that you passed down that legacy. And I really agree with you that gardening is a very healthy practice. And I read a book recently called The Well-Gardened Mind, which says that it heals people, whether they're coming back from a war, they might have post-traumatic stress syndrome. In prison, one fact that still I keep thinking about, prisoners who engage in gardening projects in prison, the recidivism rate is 10%, as opposed to 65% for the general prison population. It's just a wonderful thing, and we could grow your own food. Well, thank you so much, and we're looking forward to learning from you here in a few minutes. It's been great talking to you today, Cheryl.
Thank you, Nancy. Bye-bye.
Okay, so you've met a little. Cheryl, do you want to add anything?
I think I said it all.
Okay. Well, now we'll go into Cheryl's presentation on planting your garden. Some tips on planting your garden. And here comes Tiffany. Welcome, Tiffany. So Steve can pull up the next video. We'll go right into that. If everybody could try to mute themselves, that would be good. We'll have a Q&A when you can talk.
Your Garden with Cheryl DeGroat Tover. Things to consider: seeds. You need good seed/soil contact. Work soil with a shovel or tiller to make soil fine. Compost. For your seeds, work in compost if you have it. You can make it at home, in your backyard, throw in some leaves, newspaper, vegetable peels, anything natural, and you can make your own compost. Seeds. Many seeds need warm soil to germinate, approximately 70 degrees.
Well, this is where it all starts, with the seeds. What am I going to plant? Am I going to plant all of these? I don't know. But I know for sure I'm going to plant these because they're so pretty. And these are so hard. They have such a hard shell that the manufacturers, usually on the back, they ask you to soak them in water the night before you plant them. Soak them in warm water. So I'll do that tonight because it's going to be pretty warm today and tomorrow and for the next couple of days. I don't know whether I'll plant the cucumbers or not. I'll probably do this spinach because I love spinach. Dill, I love that. Basil, cilantro, of course, sunflower seeds. I love sunflowers, so yep. Most of this stuff is pretty easy, like alyssum. Pretty easy and it smells good. Morning glories. This is a mixed bag of morning glories. I mean, they have different colors. Usually they're blue. That's the really old and traditional color for morning glories, but now they come in these pretty colors, so I'll put some of those around the house. So, yep, there's that.
Take a picture to remember what you planted where. If you're anything like me, you'll walk away from it. The next day, you don't know what happened. So this time I took pictures of the seeds by the area where I planted them. You don't have to water seeds immediately. You can wait for the next rain if it's coming soon. Rain will saturate the entire sponge under the seeds and will provide adequate moisture for longer. Keep seedbed moist during and after germination. Very important. You can deep mulch after germination. Things to consider: transplanting seedlings. Work soil enough to get good root/soil contact. You don't have to rototill. Rototilling releases carbon from the soil, so minimize this. Work in compost if you have it. Dig a hole large enough to contain the root ball. Be sure to completely cover roots. Deep mulch around plants. Water the seedlings after planting. Things to consider: mulching. Deep mulch to retain moisture, to deter weeds, and to feed the soil, approximately 6 to 8 inches. You can use straw, leaves, old hay, only if there are no weed heads in it. Ask the farmer if he cut before the field went to seed. Pathways can be wood chips, not purchased mulch, cardboard or black and white newspaper if no color inks are in it, and the black and white ink is soy-based. Things to consider: trellising and vining plants. Provide trellising or cord plants for pole beans to climb. Let cucumbers trail on the ground or provide trellising if desired. Trellising is more work, but saves space. Things to consider: tomato plants. Provide support: stake, tomato cage, or teepee built of sticks. Fasten plants to the support as needed. Things to consider with potatoes: plant in hills or wide rows. This can be done in the ground or under very deep mulch. Look up Ruth Stout videos on YouTube. Things to consider with leafy greens: can plant densely for cut and come again. Culture. Small leaves. Can plant with space in between plants for larger plants and leaves.
Okay, thank you, Cheryl. So if you have any questions about the things she said, keep those in mind for a few minutes. And we're going to have one more presentation. Each month we're doing some update on the Melrose Acres project. And for this month, we're going to have an update on the Porch Garden project, which Melrose Acres is doing with a lot of other community partners. And Shabria Jeffrey is going to tell you about the Porch Garden project. You can get that up, Steve.
Hey guys, thanks again for tuning in to this third session of Zoom into Gardening with Soup and the library. We're happy to have you here. I'm happy to have you here, and I'm very happy to be here talking about this week's special subject, which is the second annual Soup Porch Garden Project. You should stay tuned because this project might just change your gardening life. Let's get into it. Okay, the Porch Garden Project is for you if you want to connect in person. I know we've been doing a lot of virtual connection. We've been meeting on the monthly. We've been consistent, showing love, probably in the chat, asking questions. But if you want to take this megabyte pixel connection into the physical and meet us at one of our locations face to face, this project is for you. If you want a simple way to kind of apply what you've learned, maybe you have a favorite tip. Maybe someone told you something that you thought was really insightful and you want to apply that tip or that tidbit of knowledge to a set of plants, this project is for you. If you want a flexible gardening experience, say you're moving, say you live in a van, say you're traveling state to state, this project is for you. If you want to be more connected with what you eat, and that's one of the most important parts, this project is for you. I know for me, I like to eat Roma tomatoes, and when I go to the store, I get just one single Roma tomato, but I like to look at the little sticker that's attached to it. Sometimes I do this with apples too, but I'm talking about tomatoes right now. And I'll look, and a lot of the times it says Mexico, sometimes it says California, and those places are both really cool, but it's even cooler for me to know that I started this little seed, I put it out in my garden. Sometime later, I have a physical tomato that doesn't have a sticker on it, but if it did, it would say my house. It's a very cool feeling. So if you're into that sort of thing or any of the above, this project is for you. All right, so before I get into talking about the what of the Porch Garden Project, I'd like to talk a little bit about where it came from and why it exists. As we all know, COVID-19 hit the world and shut it down in 2020, and that caused a lot of changes, a lot of upheaval in the way that we relate to each other and the way that we have access to things, and that's including food. I know for me, I worked at a grocery store in 2020, and I could see how frustrating kind of anxious people were when they would come into the grocery store and a certain product wouldn't be available because the suppliers didn't have the means to get to where we were and give us whatever food that they would deliver. So not only did that happen, you know, globally with COVID-19, but then locally we had the South Limestone Kroger close. And that had a lot of people wondering, well, if people who can't drive as much, how will they get access to the food that they once had access to with the Kroger being open? People were thinking, oh, maybe the South Side will become a food desert for people who can't travel to the Dirt Road, Main Street, or Bechtel locations. And if you don't know, a food desert is any area where people don't have access to affordable and nutritious food. So that was a worry on the community members' mind. And then Soup decided, okay, maybe we can take a step in the right direction by having people grow their own food or partnering with people in growing their own food. So that's kind of where this project was birthed. We were worried, okay, maybe there might be some sort of food desert. How can we push things in the right direction? This is just a step. But that's where the Porch Garden Project comes from. So what is the Porch Garden Project? The Porch Garden Project is Soup partnering with 100 families on a porch garden project. So 100 families will get a porch garden project at no charge. The process is a registration process, and they come to the location June 12th, 12 to 2. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. But they'll get what is essentially a container garden, a garden that is movable and easy to start, easy to maintain. They'll get that garden. It'll have 5 plants in it: lettuce, tomatoes, peppers, squash, cucumber. And then it'll be the family's responsibility to grow those plants up into a yield of some sort. That is what the Porch Garden Project is. Now, you might be asking at this point how you can get your porch garden. And there are 2 ways to do that. You could register online at this funny little link here. I would demonstrate it for you, but because I'm recording, I can't click out of the recording to go show it. But hopefully somebody puts this link in the chat. And if you're not into registering online or being online, you can also register by phone at this phone number, 937-340-2393. Give them a call, put your name on the list, and come get your porch garden. So once you've done the registration, you've done half the job. Then you just show up at whichever location you choose, either the North Limestone location. That's where the plants were originally, the seed was put in the dirt and they were grown. They've been growing all year. Or you can come to the South Yellow Spring Street location, which is new for this year. We didn't have that last year, but new addition. So you can come to one of those locations, you'll pick up your porch garden, and the plants will be in your hands. And then lastly, I just want to talk about the who of the Porch Garden Project. Of course, we know Springfield Urban Plantfolk. They kind of mastermind the project, but not without the help of a lot of these partners. I'm just going to read the list to you. We have the Health Department, Ohio Department of Health, Creating Healthy Communities, Central State Extension, 1159 South, CDC, Green Environmental Outreach, the 2020 Gardeners, who were kind of the early adopters of the project, who partnered with us, and then you, if you decide to register. I have the registration info again listed just below. And pretty much that's it. I hope somebody puts that in the chat. I'm finished here. I wish you happy gardening. I hope to see you with your porch garden. I hope to see you with your non-porch garden at Lowe's, getting garden material, Home Depot, creating your own. Maybe you could even send us pictures once you do get your porch garden of what it looks like. Let's stay connected. Let's keep giving ourselves good food and staying connected to the food that we do eat. Happy gardening, and I'll see you next time. Peace.
Okay, well, thank you, Bree. We are now going to have some announcements, and I'm also going to ask Sarah, I've given Sarah some information to email out to you afterwards, which will include a flyer about the Porch Garden Project. And so, yeah, so now it's time for a few announcements. So Steve can pull that up. Our partner with Melrose Acres is Community Solutions, and they're having a couple events coming up that we wanted to tell you about. Also, Dale Henry gave me the flyer for Juneteenth as well. So I wanted to share that with you, as well as the Porch Garden flyer. So go ahead, Steve. Now it's time for announcements. First, I'd like to introduce Rachel Isaacson, the event coordinator with the Community Solutions in Yellow Springs. And she's going to tell you about 2 upcoming events, a garden event at their Agraria Center this weekend, and also a Nourishing Life conference on June 18th and 19th. For our announcements today, I want to introduce Rachel Isaacson, who is the event coordinator with Community Solutions in Yellow Springs, which is actually the fiscal agent for the Urban Agricultural Project, Melrose Acres. So we are really excited that SOUP is able to partner with Community Solutions, because it's really because of them that we were able to get the grant, along with a lot of other help too. But so anyway, we're very indebted to Community Solutions, and I'd like you to meet Rachel Isaacson, and she's going to tell you about a couple exciting events coming up this coming weekend and again in June. So take it away, Rachel.
All right, so thank you so much for inviting me here. So this weekend we have a kickoff for the Giving Gardening Challenge. So in partnership with the 5 Rivers Metro Parks and Dayton Regional Green, there's going to be some free gardening workshops at Agraria this Saturday. There's 2 different sessions, and Miss Nancy will provide you with how to register. And we hope that you can join us for that. And then we also have a conference called Nourishing Life, which is going to be from 12 to 5 on June 18th and 19th. And so we basically are trying to highlight this idea that, well, not the idea, but we're trying to highlight and educate folks that don't know that our food's only as nutritious as our soil has nutrients. And we're trying to bridge these connections so that folks know that nourishing ourselves means also nourishing the soil and vice versa. We're going to have some keynote speakers, including Vandana Shiva, and she's a global activist, as well as Dr. Drew Ramsey, who's going to be talking also about how nutrition relates to mental health. So we hope that you can join us, and she'll be providing you with a flyer.
Well, thank you, Rachel. And these are wonderful events, and we're so grateful for all the work that Community Solutions is doing and for your partnering with us to bring an urban agricultural center to Springfield. So we will definitely put that information for you in the chat, and Sarah Webb will also email it out to any of you who have registered with her for this seminar. So thank you, and hope to work with you again in the future, Rachel.
Thank you so much, Nancy.
This is the event that Rachel was talking about this weekend, which will be in Yellow Springs at their Agraria Center. We'll put information in the chat and also email you the flyer. Also, she mentioned the Nourishing Life Conference, which will be held on Friday, June 18th and Saturday, June 19th. It's a free virtual event. So check out the information. Again, we'll put the information in the chat, and it will be emailed out to the people that registered for today. We have 2 Sundays left in the soup plant sale, which will be held on Sunday from 3 to 5, this coming Sunday, and also the Sunday of Memorial Day weekend. It's at the greenhouse beside Rallies on North Limestone, 2030. A great selection of plants, and let's listen to a moment Cheryl Dover show us some of the things that she got at the plant sale.
These plants I just got yesterday at the greenhouse, and we've got green zebra tomatoes, purple beauty Purple beauty peppers. Golden California Wonder. I believe that's Golden California Wonder peppers. And there's cucumbers and all types of things. The main thing I was going out there for were the sweet potato slips, because I love to grow sweet potatoes every year. Um, I don't know if the local groundhogs will allow it this year, but we're going to see. I've been trying to deal with them using humane methods like hot peppers and things like that, but we'll just see how it goes. But yeah, I'm going to put this stuff in probably later on in the month or in mid-May, because right now it's only April the 26th, so I'm going to try to hold out. Sherry told me that May 15th is really the best day to plant, so we'll see if I can hold out until then.
The plant sale is actually the next 3 Sundays, May 22nd, May 29th, and June 6th. I made an error in my earlier announcement. And as Bree talked about, we'll be having the Porch Garden giveaway for Southside residents of the Food Desert on Saturday, June 12th. You can register online or by calling 937-340-2393. Again, we'll put the flyer in the chat and also email it to those who've registered. And finally, last month we spoke with Dale Henry, the president of the Gammon House, and he invited us to come to their Juneteenth celebration, which will be on Saturday, June 19th at the Gammon House. There is a 5K run or walk for freedom beginning at 8 a.m. And the festivities on the grounds at the Gammon House will continue until 2 p.m. with the Father Fest and the Good Dad Awards. They'll have some food trucks and various booths and activities. So that's also time you can check out the Gammon House Garden. So don't forget, Saturday, June 19th, we will put the flyer in the chat for more details. That's it today for announcements. We hope you'll join us for these. So that was a lot of announcements. So now we want to open up for questions and answers, and also for some of you may have some wisdom that you would like to share with us. So we'll start. Are there any questions that anybody has? No. Maybe we don't have any questions. Or if you have comments too, that's fine.
I think it would be great to hear if anybody has any additional suggestions about, things they've learned about planting, and their soils in their gardens. Does anybody have anything that are helpful tips for all of us?
One thing I'm trying this week, this year is called Three Sisters. It's a way the Native American planted plants to try to grow them together. So you plant corn, and then the corn stalk goes up, and then you plant pole beans around that. After the corn is about knee high, you plant the beans, and then the beans are supposed to crawl up the corn. And then around the beans, you plant squash, and it helps the soil, I guess, provide the nitrogen. So that's my friend Kathy Witt, who used to live here in Springfield. She did that last year, and she gave me some of the seeds. So I planted the popcorn corn in my garden, and I've got some regular corn growing also at the greenhouse. So I will let you know later how that works. I'm kind of excited. Hope it works well.
It's been a long time since I've done any gardening. I did quite a bit when my children were young and we wanted fresh food. My grew up on a farm, so we had a truck batch and did a lot of food then. But had a problem with rabbits in my garden, and I was told to sprinkle bone meal around it, and I didn't know if that's still suggested or was that just some old wives' tale?
Those people that are on the call, does anybody know? Will the bone meal help get rid of rabbits? We put a fence up around our garden to keep the rabbits out. What were you gonna say,
I've heard that also, but I've never had rabbits because we've always had dogs. So get a dog.
I have one other question because I would like to make a donation to Soup, and I wasn't completely sure about the name. That I got the name today, but is there an address where I could send a check?
Well, thank you very much for considering us, Jan. Yeah, we don't have an office. And if you do make a donation, in order for us to put it into our business account, it does need to say Springfield Ohio Urban Plantfolk. And you can mail it to 5545 Ballantyne Pike.
Thank you.
You used to live out, didn't you used to live out in that neck of the woods?
We lived on Penny Pike for 12 years, yes.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Did you say it's 5545
Yeah.
Valentine? What's the zip code?
02.
I'm just typing that into the chat.
Oh, okay. I was gonna expound a little bit on the potato suggestions. I think if people need an easier way to grow potatoes and you have pretty decent soil, it's not really hard. It really does work. You would be amazed if you need things to be physically easier than digging trenches and hilling, definitely probably the best thing to do is to dig a trench and then keep hilling the mound, mounding it up over the potatoes. But it actually does work. And if you watch if you can find Ruth Stout on YouTube, you'll see her do this. I mean, even like as I believe she was like 80 years old when I saw her video. But you literally can just put them on top of the ground in good loose soil and deep mulch deep over them, like 12 inches worth of mulch, and you will still get potatoes. And you don't have to dig them all up either. You do have to do some digging because they will kind of root in a little bit, but you won't. And you may not get as many potatoes, but you will still get some, and you will not have had to do quite the amount of backbreaking labor that usually goes into doing potatoes. I was fascinated by that, and we tried that at McCain or at Melrose Acres, and we got potatoes. It was pretty interesting. So I just wanted to kind of expound on that a little bit and encourage people if they can, find the Ruth Stout. I think she's passed away by now, but if you can find some of her old videos on YouTube, they're worth watching.
I've got an old galvanized bucket that I was putting clippings in from my garden and from my yard. And I was out there a couple of days ago, and I had some old new potatoes that I had thrown in there. I didn't even realize I had done that. And they're growing. Yeah. And they've got green things coming up. So I started to put dirt in there, and I'm going to see how it comes out. But it was so easy.
Yeah.
So easy. Yeah.
We actually have a potato coming up in the compost bucket in the greenhouse.
Potatoes all over the place.
Didn't you plant your sweet? Cheryl, you've planted your sweet potatoes?
Yeah, I planted those.
Or something.
Yeah, I plant those. I planted some of those in the garden this year, but I usually put them in big tubs And I'm going to do some of both this year just to see how they turn out. But like I said, the groundhogs ate all of my potatoes one year, and I, like a dummy, kept watering them, even though they kept eating the greens off. And then when I went to go harvest my potatoes, there was just one teeny weeny potato, and it's like it was just saying, "You dummy, you've been out here watering us." But yeah, it's fun though. I was disappointed, but it was fun.
Can you put your tubs up high, Cheryl? I know we talked some about this, but I don't remember what we said.
I don't see the groundhogs this year because I think my neighbor behind me has a gun, and I think she's done something to them. So I didn't have them last year.
Oh, great.
And I tried everything. I tried putting pepper seeds, hot sauce. I ordered stuff from Amazon, stuff that's supposed to be, friendly for these things. I got to thinking to myself, I don't know if I want to really be friendly to them like that, because they're eating up my potatoes. But I didn't kill them, but somebody killed them. And so I didn't have a problem with them last year.
I have something I could share. Did you hear me? Shoot.
Yeah, go ahead, Tiffany.
Can you hear me? Good, or
Yes,
should I take it off the
yes,
speaker?
go ahead.
Okay. I had let me see, because we're talking about flowers too today, right?
Mm-hmm.
I made this. I don't know how to flip the thing. I made this this little planter, and then Nancy, actually, I seen this at her house, so kind of got the idea from her. And you could put real plants into your planter and leave them outside. She does that, so now I do it. And so I have a spider plant, and I got on YouTube and learned how to cut the spider plants, if you can see, and then they root at the bottom. And because there's so many of them, I could put them in a planter and not worry about digging them out at the end of the year, because they're really just extra. And then they grow in your planter once it has the root on the bottom. And last year, I had some hanging baskets that I put them in, and the spider plant grew over, so it really looked nice. So if anybody wants some pieces of the spider plant, I have like 3 of those in water, just waiting for them to root. And then if you put them in your planter, they'll grow, and you don't have to worry about, unless you want to dig them up at the end of the summer and then put them in a pot, and it'll still grow. That's all I have. Yeah.
Thanks,
This is
Tiffany.
the pot that, if you can see it, Tiffany gave me this for Mother's Day. It's very pretty.
Oh, philodendron. Oh, cute.
Well,
I have some to share if anybody wants some. I definitely don't mind donating for free, that you can have them. Thank you.
Thank you, Tiffany. Speaking about starting plants, should I maybe talk about, does anybody want to hear how we came up with sweet potato slips? Because they're pretty hard to come by.
Mm-hmm.
Because I had always learned to put to get a jar of water, put toothpicks in the sweet potato so that when you put it down in the jar, it's about halfway submerged. And I don't have them anymore. Actually, you can see above my head, I've got, actually there is a jar up there with a sweet potato in it and 2 cups of slips. And I started those, we burn a wood stove in the wintertime, and that's the only warm place in the house. And they do need to be in a warm place. I got to say that sweet potatoes need warmth, but that worked out really well. But then I had also seen, I don't know, on YouTube or something, to lay your sweet potatoes in just in a tray of soil and keep your soil damp. And we've now for 2 years done that in the greenhouse, but we put that tray of soil on a heat mat. And we got sweet potato slips that way. And it's just, as long as you got a warm place, you can come up with your own sweet potato slips. Although I do know that you do need to get either ones from a local farmer, sweet potatoes from a local farmer, or you need to get organic ones if you can get them at a grocery store. The other ones I think have been treated somehow so they won't sprout. But these were organic ones that I found at Fresh Time in Beaver Creek. So if people want to start their own sweet potato slips, it's really easy to do, and because it's so hard to find them commercially.
Yeah, Sherry, aren't there some sweet potatoes that don't grow in the north? Aren't there some that need a longer time, a longer length of warmth before they'll produce or something?
I don't know, because I'm just kind of learning about sweet potatoes, and we have the same problem you do. The groundhogs absolutely love them.
Yeah.
Absolutely will just eat every leaf on the plant. But that I don't know. They are long season, and they will not tolerate cold at all.
Right.
Which is why we don't get great sweet potatoes, around here. But I don't know about the differences in the varieties. I'm just learning.
I usually when I was ordering them, I would order Georgia Jets. And,
Okay.
well, in the magazines and the catalogs, they tell you which ones would be best for your areas. But I knew there were a couple that would be good for here, and then a couple of them wouldn't grow. The season's not long enough for us to get good sweet potatoes from some of those plants.
Okay. That's good to know. Georgia Jet, I've seen that before, but I never knew it different from anything else.
Yeah.
So I suppose if we do get sweet potatoes, and we order them, we need to look for the ones that have the shortest growing season, I would imagine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they'll usually tell you, what section of the country these will grow in, that type of stuff. So yeah.
Okay.
Well, we could probably have one more comment or question. Does anybody else have something else they've been wanting to say or ask? Well, maybe not. Thank you for all of your comments and wisdom. Now we want to turn it over to our librarian to tell us about some of the wonderful resources that our Clark County Public Library has for us about planting. So go ahead, Sarah.
Excellent. Let me, hold on just a second here. I've lost my screen. Let me go back here really quickly. There. Okay. Sorry, Miss Nancy. Can everyone see that? No? Okay.
Not yet.
Okay. Can I get back? Oh, here we go. Okay. Sorry, Miss Nancy. There we are. Okay. All right. So here are some of the planting books that you can get at the local library. So we talked a lot about like the basics of planting. These kind of cover more advanced topics. A lot of them are about companion planting in the garden. So I hope that you'll pick one of these up very soon. It's frozen. Hold on just a second.
Sometimes I've found that I have to stop sharing and then click on what I want to share and then start sharing again. I don't know. My computer sometimes does that too.
Yeah, it's all frozen up. How about this, Nancy? Could you go on and share?
Okay, you want to go on to the other things? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, we can go.
1 second. Okay.
Last month we had Debbie Mines. Debbie Mines works with the Springfield Ohio Urban Plantfolk. she works really hard. In fact, she goes to the greenhouse almost every day right now to water the plants that are going to be later planted at Melrose and that are in the porch garden and that are in the plant sale. So she's quite an awesome person. And we did a short interview with her. So we want to show that interview so you can get to know Debbie a little bit. So you could put up the interview with Debbie Mines, Steve. Well, welcome to Zoom into Gardening. And in our program, we want to introduce you to some of the people that have been gardening and working on the south side of Springfield and with the Springfield Ohio Urban Plantfolk. And today we have Debbie Mimes, who is a board member with SOUP, the Springfield Ohio Urban Plantfolk. So I want you to have an opportunity to get to know Debbie a little bit and learn about her gardening work. So first of all, Debbie, just tell me a little bit about yourself, where you grew up and where you went to school.
Okay. My mom and I moved to Springfield when I was 3, so 1960, something like that. And I attended Springfield City Schools. I graduated from Springfield South High School, and I attended college at Lane College in Jackson, Tennessee. I graduated. I have a sociology degree, minored in communications, and I worked at Clark County Juvenile Detention Center for 32 years. Okay, wow, I didn't know all about you. We have something in common. I also majored in sociology in college, but I did religion instead of communications. So anyway, that's very interesting. Okay, I didn't know that. Okay, so tell me a little bit about how you got involved in gardening. When my grandson, he's 15 now, when he was 8 or 9, I can't remember exactly. He asked me, he showed an interest in gardening, and someone, I can't remember who, mentioned the garden on Jefferson Street. So we went over there, and that was where we met Sherry. And my grandma's garden, my uncle garden, my mom had a little garden, but I never showed an interest in it. I would take pictures of my mom and just, when are those green tomatoes going to be ready? I mostly harassed her while she was gardening. So her and our dog. The dog was always out there with her while she was gardening, but I never showed an interest in it. I mean, my grandma always grew food and flowers and stuff, and I liked the end result, but I never showed an interest until he asked me, and we went to Jefferson Street, and that's where we met Sherry. And so we had, they had a couple of plots that had been abandoned. The people who planted them never came back, and so Xavier and I, my grandson, she assigned us to those. I think there was either 2 or 3 plots she assigned us to, and so we took care of those, and then I think we only did it one season, and then when Perrin Woods started, sent flyers home about starting a garden at the school. We filled out the paper and sent it in, and lo and behold, there was Sherry Chin. I was glad to see her because I hadn't seen her for a while, and so there we began our relationship again, and started gardening there at the school, and that branched out into other things. So all with her guidance, at the school and at my home. And so that's kind of how it started. So you got involved in gardening a little later in your life. Yeah. And now you're going strong. Ready for one more question? Yes. What do you enjoy about gardening? I don't know. I feel like it brings me close to my mom, something that she loved doing. I feel close to her. And I like seeing things grow. I think I'd kind of drive Sherry crazy because, you know, if a plant's like, we don't need it, we got too many of it, and then she tries to throw it away, and then I go and get it and say, I'm going to save you, little plant. And I nurture it. I got some plants in the greenhouse now that were trash plants. And I took them out of the compost bin and put them in pots and gave them some fresh soil and watered them, and they're doing good. I'm going to take them home and plant them in my yard. So they survive. So I think it's just, and then at the greenhouse, it's so peaceful, and you know, watering the plants and planting seeds and stuff. It's something I wish I would have taken hold of while my mom and my grandmother were still living, so that I could have been enjoying it and know a lot more than I know now. I'd be, you know, really good at it by now, but so I didn't take advantage of what was right in front of me.
Yeah. Yeah, so all the younger people listening that have their parents still around who are gardeners, this is a great time to learn from them, right?
Exactly.
Well, we really appreciate all the work you do, Cher, at the greenhouse. I know you go over there almost every day, don't you, to water, and that's where the plants are growing. That will be in the Porch Gardens as well as at Melrose Acres and for the plant sale. So thank you for all the work that you're doing. I've really enjoyed getting to know you, and I appreciate your work with Soup and Melrose Acres. So it's been really nice talking to you today.
Nice talking to you too.
We weren't planning to do that interview that day, but it came out okay. So appreciate Debbie. Do you want to go now, Sarah? Or you want us to do our other videos and then
let's give it another try here. I'll do my best. So let's see. There we are. Can anyone see that now?
I can't do it.
Okay, great. So as I was saying, there's quite a few books here at the library, especially beginner gardening books that feature just the how-tos of planting. So these are going to cover more specialized things, mainly companion planting, that I wanted to share with you. This first book is called Plant Partners by Jessica Walliser. Plant Partners delivers a research-based rationale for companion planting, offering gardeners dozens of ways they can use scientifically tested plant partnerships to benefit the garden as a whole. Planting the Natural Garden by Pete Udolph and Hank Gerritsen. If the world of gardening has rock stars, Pete Udolph qualifies as Mick Jagger, David Bowie, and Prince rolled into one. This classic, expanded and updated, packed with practical information and visual inspiration. Vegetables Love Flowers by Lisa Mason Ziegler. An indispensable introduction to one of the oldest yet most radical ways to improve and beautify your vegetable garden. The Complete Guide to Companion Planting, revised 2nd edition by Dale Mayer. This newly revised and updated book shows you everything to effectively pair your crops. Learn the best and worst companions for annuals, perennials, fruits, vegetables, shrubs, and vines. Planting in a Post-Wild World by Thomas Rayner and Claudia West. An alternative to traditional horticulture, designed plantings that function like naturally occurring plant communities. The authors reveal how plants fit together in nature and how to use this knowledge to create landscapes that are resilient, beautiful, and diverse. Companion Planting for the Kitchen Gardener by Allison Greer. Companion planting techniques have been used for centuries to facilitate better, more nutritious, and more abundant crops. With this guide, you'll have all the information you need in clear, concise terms. The Mix and Match Guide to Companion Planting by Josie Jeffrey. With its unique split-page mix and match system, This is a colorful visual gardening guide to which vegetables, fruits, and herbs grow best with one another and which do not. Great Garden Companions by Sally Jean Cunningham. Designed to help readers make organic gardening easy and productive by using plants themselves instead of chemical care, the author offers a system that encourages pest-free growth. Carrots Love Tomatoes and Roses Love Garlic by Louise Riot. From deterring insect pests with hot peppers to encouraging strawberries by bordering them with chrysanthemums, Louise Riot shows you how to use the natural qualities of common plants to increase your garden's productivity. Finally, we have a book that's available as an ebook on the library's website through Hoopla. This one is Japanese Style Companion Planting by Toshio Kojima. Japanese style companion planting brings the techniques of a master farmer in Japan to home gardeners all over the world, with over 175 easy to follow color illustrations and detailed texts. So we hope that gets your curiosity going. Please stop by the library and check these books out, and feel free to email me anytime at swebb@ccplohio.org. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Sarah. It looks like the library has quite a collection on companion gardening. And we should check that out and see how we can use that technique in our gardens. That was very informational. Okay, we have 2 more videos. The next one is one that I created for last month. We met on April 22nd, which was Earth Day. And, you know, as we think about gardening, there's a thing called Homegrown National Park, and I want to tell you about that. I think we mentioned that book you mentioned that book last time. Nature's Best. What? Did somebody say something? Nature's Best Hope by Doug Ptolemy. So, and then also about the issue of climate change is affecting our gardening practices. So Steve, if you could play the Earth Day, I call it Earth Day Rewind because it was for last month. Happy Earth Day. I want to thank all of you for your interest in gardening. It's a great way to care for the earth. As you garden this year, take a look at Doug Ptolemy's book, Nature's Best Hope. He tells us that what you plant in your garden and in your yard can make a big difference. You have the ability to restore native insects, bees, butterflies, caterpillars, and birds. He is trying to start a homegrown national park movement, and you can do this by planting native plants in your yard. Use the National Wildlife Foundation website's Native Plant Finder, and there you can find what plants are native to our area that will help restore a lot of our insect populations. Also, when you were listening to Debbie's presentation earlier, she mentioned that we have moved from Climate Zone 5 to Climate Zone 6. This is a result of the warming planet. Ocean temperatures are rising, the ice caps are melting at an unprecedented rate. We are also in a major extinction event where a lot of species are disappearing. And the number of weather-related events are rising. They've literally doubled in the last 40 years, from 1980 to 2020. And this is costing billions of dollars because of the disasters that are happening worldwide. Here, just in 2018 alone, you can see the billion-dollar weather and climate disasters, which include wildfires, tornadoes, hurricanes, snowstorms, and drought. Based on the evidence, 97% of climate experts have concluded that human-caused climate change is happening. We know the science behind the realities. We know what's going on. We know that carbon dioxide has reached its all-time high in 2018. Now is the time for us to take action. I just encourage you to think this Earth Day about joining Citizens Climate Lobby. Go to their website and you can join. We are working to build bipartisan political will to address climate change. And if you live here in Clark County, email Steve Schlother at sschlother@sbcglobal.net and you can join our local group. Happy Earth Day. I just want to thank you for your interest in gardening. Keep working on your gardens and speak up for the earth. Thank you very much. So thank you. And Steve Schlother is also on the call tonight. Steve, do you want to say anything about that? I caught him off guard.
You said it all well. Move on.
Okay. Okay, we have one more video featuring some poetry. And so if you could play the inspiration aisle, Steve. Welcome back to Inspiration Aisle, our creative spot on Zoom into Gardening. If you have a poem or piece of art to share, send it to shabriajeffrey@yahoo.com and we'll feature you next month. This month, we're proud to feature Jan Cushmaw and her poem, Child Like a Seed. And you can see her there with two of her grandchildren. A child like a flower grows from seeds of love and light. The sun of smiles and rain of tears bring faces sweet and bright. A parent is that special one who feeds the tender bloom, who watches as the blossom grows and gives the needed room. A parent gives the time, the care, and then one day, a parent hugs the full-grown child and sends it on its way. Thank you, Jan. Our second poem tonight is called The Garden by Ann Tatlinger, who is a tutor with the 21st Century Grant at Fulton School. And here is Ann's wonderful poem about planting a garden. Earth awakens, beckons me outside beyond the rush, distractions, cares, the noise. The silent sod speaks as I square off this now empty plot of rich brown soil. My mind's eye sees in this dull dirt the hues and textures of various plants, sweet peas trailing, beans climbing, potatoes digging deep into nurturing ground. So again, if you have a poem or a piece of art to share, please email it to shabriajeffrey@yahoo.com and we will feature you next month on Zoom into Garden. Well, thank you again, Jan, for your poem. And if you have any other poets out there, or if you do other kinds of art, photography, please send them to shabriajeffrey@yahoo.com. I think this concludes our program. I see in the chat, somebody said, love that, Jan. Great picture, Jan. What beautiful messages. Thanks for sharing, Jan, and very soothing poems. Yeah, I think they were very beautiful. And I love that the second one too, you know, that the earth is beckoning us, and now we certainly seem to be in the warm phase, right? Beginning this week. Even though we're supposed to be in zone 6, it seems like this year we were still in zone 5 because we had freeze dates after April 15th. You know, I've planted my garden taking the word that we had changed times at our climate zones, but then I had to go and cover my garden up a couple nights last week when it got so cold. Well, it's great to see you all. Does anybody else want to share anything before we close out tonight?
I just want to thank our special guests tonight, which is Cheryl DeGroat Dover, Bree Jeffrey, and Debbie Mines, for sharing your wisdom this evening. I also want to mention that this program is being recorded, so you'll be able to view it at a later date on the library's YouTube channel at ccplohio.org.
And we will join again on, is it June 20th, I believe?
It's
Or no, June 27th?
June 24th.
June 24th, okay.
24th for
That's-
Caring for Your Garden.
Yeah, so we hope you'll come back and invite your friends and yeah, share the link with your friends so that they can also enjoy these helpful classes. So thank you everybody that participated tonight. Also especially give a thanks to Sherry Chen for she helps create a lot of our content too. So we really appreciate Sherry's help. And Steve, thanks for your technical support. Flawless.
And thanks to Sarah for hosting and making it all work.
Yeah, we're really grateful to the library.
Thank you.
So have a good night, everybody.
Bye.
Enjoy your gardens.